Do you ever feel tired of playing the same frustrating and arcadey game modes in Warthunder?
Fire. Eject. Warning. Engine fire.
Have you ever wanted to try simulator battles before, but given up quickly after realizing just how daunting this game mode can be to approach? Simulator battles can be a breath of fresh air in an otherwise cold and stale Warthunder experience, especially top tier, but it's the most difficult game mode to approach. I hope that this video changes that for you. Hello pilots, and welcome to part 1 of a multi-part series to make you a competent pilot in Warthunder air simulator battles. In this series, we will be going over a variety of topics from suppression of enemy air defenses to beyond visual range air-to-air engagements. This series will have something for everyone to benefit from and learn from, new and experienced players alike. I hope. This video is just an introduction, and it will be covering control schemes and giving an overview of simulator enduring confrontation experiences. So, if you're not brand new to simulator mode, this video may not be appropriate for you. But don't worry, there will be far more advanced topics covered in this series, so don't forget to subscribe to see our next lessons. The vast majority of players are only familiar with the pointer aim control scheme. This control scheme essentially uses player input to instruct your virtual pilot how to fly the aircraft for you. But in simulator mode, we have no such middleman. You'll have to create a different control scheme in order to even get off the ground. There are two main ways to pilot an aircraft in sim: mouse and keyboard and HOTAS. We'll start with mouse and keyboard because it's the most easily accessible. A timestamp is in the corner for my HOTAS players. Okay, so mouse and keyboard, this one's going to be pretty easy for you guys to do because you're going to be using most of the same controls that you've been using in your realistic battles. There's only a few key differences. So the first one, and that's going to be at the top of the screen right there in your controls, is your control mode. You're going to want to switch this to relative control. That way you're using your mouse in the same way that you would use a joystick. If you move your mouse back, your aircraft's going to go up. If you move your mouse forward, it's going to go down. If you move it left, it's going to roll left. If you move it right, it's going to roll right. Okay? The default mode, for whatever reason, is a screen joystick, weird abomination thing. It does not work very well. I really do not recommend it for anybody. Okay, now that that's out of the way, most of your controls are going to be the same for actual bindings, but here I'm going to go over the differences. So, first of all, here's a new binding for you: toggle SAS mode. This is going to help your aircraft with stability. I can get into that later, but you're going to want to have this, especially if you're new. It's just a very useful thing to have in simulator mode. Another thing that you're going to want to do, if you're not already, you need to be using radar target queuing. Okay, so essentially what this is it allows you to move a cursor on your radar screen in order to select radar targets. This is important in simulator modes because you can't just go around locking random targets until you find one that looks good to you, because you need to do IFF in your search screen before you lock a target and deliberately choose the target that you want to lock to make sure that it is not a friendly. Okay? You always want to do IFF before you employ your weapons. Now, to do this, you're going to want to go into your controls under weapons and look for the controls called horizontal and vertical radar target queue at control axis. All right? When you do this, I usually bind them to my arrow keys, okay? And that's going to allow you to move that cursor. And then you're just going to use lock radar target in order to select your target and lock it. Now here's the part where things get weird and iffy is HOTAS controls. Because every HOTAS is different, at least a little bit, okay? So just keep in mind that your controls are largely up to you, but what you want to do is make sure that you have a mouse that you can use while you're using your stick in order to control where your aircraft's moving, okay? This way you can look around. You'll want to have a button bound on your stick to activate your mouse look. And then everything else that you're going to need to have at your disposal while you're using your flight controls, such as your flares and your landing gear and your flaps and your air brakes and your zoom, your lock weapon, your guns, obviously, and your changing radar modes. You're going to want to have all of that on your HOTAS. Another thing that you need to consider, if you have a directional pad on your stick or throttle, what you're going to want to do with that is you're going to want to use it to control your radar target Q control axes. And I'll put that up on the screen, how you'll actually want to bind those. But basically what this does is it makes it so that you can move a cursor on your radar screen in order to select targets. And this is very important because you need to use your radar to identify friendlies and identify hostiles. You can't just be using your usual select radar target button, because that jumps randomly from target to target and it isn't going to tell you what's friendly and what's not. Aside from that, where exactly you place these controls on your HOTAS is completely up to you. So I can't get into bindings, specific bindings for everything. It's basically up to you. Now that you have all of your controls bound, it's time to fly. Before you get into your first match, you'll want to take the time to learn your aircraft. What speed do the flaps rip at? What's the maximum speed of your landing gear? How does your aircraft handle at low speeds? These are all things that you gotta know before you enter a simulator lobby, or you're gonna make some costly and embarrassing mistakes. Practice some maneuvers you might find yourself doing in a dogfight before you enter your first battle. Now, if you've continued watching this video so far, it's likely you've never played simulator battles before, so here's what to expect. There are a variety of activities to complete within the game, each helping your team achieve victory. The first is PvP. Of course, you can just go out there guns blazing and shoot down every enemy aircraft you see. There's nothing wrong with that, and it can be very profitable if you become efficient at it. But if you're new to Sim, you might want to try hunting down AI aircraft instead. AI aircraft spawn at regular intervals within a game. There's 3 types of AI aircraft. Attackers, which spawn at a medium altitude and bomb ground targets. Bombers, which spawn at high altitudes and bomb airfields. Bombers and attackers come with 2 fighters escorting them, so be wary of that. And finally, there are surveillance aircraft which circle a predetermined area on the opposing side of the map and always spawn alone. There are also always 2 enemy fighters which patrol above every airfield in the lobby. Bombers and attackers will strike their target and leave toward their team's side of the battle. Killing any AI aircraft grants the player points, and killing the entire group completes the objective for the team, bringing you closer to victory. There are also bases, carriers, and airfields to bomb, which after repeated attacks can lead up to a lot of silver lions. I'll be creating separate videos for bombing these targets because it is dangerous. The anti-aircraft fire is very effective. there are ground targets in simulator battles as well. Now, these ground targets aren't like the bunkers, artillery, and AAA that you're probably familiar with from realistic battles. They come in the form of tanks, APCs, AFVs, recoilless rifles, and SPAA, all with their own damage models similar to how player vehicles work in ground battles. They're organized in two different ways: convoys, which move throughout the map toward the front line, and battles, which occur at the front line between opposing forces. Be very careful when you're approaching these. The anti-air defenses are very lethal. It's best that you not get too close to them if you can help it. Now, lastly, there are capture points. This is pretty easy. Stay within the grid square of the capture point to capture it for your team. That concludes today's video. So subscribe for more, like, comment, and share so that more people can see this video and more people can start to enjoy simulator battles.